The cold arrives first as a memory rather than a feeling. It drifts in like breath against glass, faint and slow, settling over rooftops, fields, and quiet streets before anyone notices it has come. Snow has not yet fallen, but the air already carries its promise, a hushed stillness that softens every sound and stretches time gently, as if the world itself is preparing to rest. In this winter, children learn early how silence can speak. Footsteps on stone echo longer. Church bells fade into pale skies. Candles glow with a steadier purpose. Somewhere behind frost-laced windows, families draw closer, sharing warmth, stories, and the simple comfort of being together while the cold presses patiently from the outside. As you listen, imagine yourself there, safe, unhurried, wrapped in layers of quiet. Let your body settle into a comfortable position. If the lights around you are still bright, you may wish to soften them now, allowing shadows to grow gentle and kind. Breathe in slowly, and let the breath fall away just as slowly. There is nowhere to go tonight, nothing to do but listen and rest. If you feel like it, you can quietly show your support for this story by liking the video or subscribing to the channel. Small gestures that feel as soft as placing another log on the fire. And if your thoughts drift, you might leave a comment too, sharing where you are listening from, the U.S., Europe, or somewhere else entirely, and what time the night has reached for you. All of it can wait until later. For now, simply be here. With each breath, let your shoulders loosen. Let your jaw soften. The cold of the story stays outside, while you remain warm and safe, guided gently back into a winter long ago, when children grew up learning patience, resilience, and quiet hope beneath pale skies. The winter of that year arrived without announcement. It did not rush in with storms or shouting winds, but crept softly along the cobbled roads of a small European town, settling into doorways and window frames like a visitor who intended to stay. The children noticed it first, not because it frightened them, but because it changed the rhythm of their days. Morning light came later now, thin and silver, slipping carefully between the clouds. Anna woke beneath a heavy wool blanket, listening to the faint crackle of the stove in the next room. The warmth reached her slowly, like a promise still deciding whether to keep itself. She lay still, watching her breath bloom in the cold air before fading again, each breath a small cloud, quiet and patient. Outside, the town moved more gently than before. Horses stamped their hooves against the frozen ground, steam rising from their noses. Wooden shutters opened with careful hands. Somewhere a broom brushed snow dust from stone steps, the sound steady and calming. The children bundled themselves in layers passed down from older siblings, coats that carried the shape of other winters, scarves softened by years of use. Schoolrooms felt smaller now, filled with the shared warmth of bodies and breath. Lessons slowed, words spoken carefully so they would not be wasted. When fingers grew numb, children rubbed their hands together and waited. Waiting became a skill that winter, a quiet understanding that time moved differently when the world was cold. As evening returned early, lamps were lit one by one, their glow steady and reassuring. Anna sat close to her family, listening to stories she had heard before, yet never tired of. Outside, the cold pressed its face to the glass, but inside there was calm and safety, and the gentle certainty that tomorrow would come in its own unhurried way. The day faded without hurry, wrapped in silence and soft light, and the children let themselves rest within it, knowing that winter, for all its cold, also taught them how to endure quietly. Snow arrived during the night, so quietly that no one heard it coming. By morning the town lay beneath a pale blanket, smooth and untouched, as if the world had been gently covered while it slept. The air felt softer now, carrying sound away instead of letting it linger. Even the bells seemed to ring more slowly, their tones muffled by white. The children stepped outside with careful wonder. Each breath felt colder, sharper, yet strangely clean. Boots sank into the snow with a muted crunch, a sound that felt private, meant only for those who listened closely. Anna watched her footprints appear behind her, then fade as new snow drifted down, teaching her without words how easily moments could disappear. At the river's edge, ice traced delicate patterns along the banks, thin as lace. The water still moved beneath it, dark and patient, reminding the children that life continued even when hidden. They stood quietly, hands tucked into sleeves, watching small pieces of ice spin slowly in the current before slipping away. Inside homes, the smell of bread filled the air. Dough was shaped near the hearth, rising slowly, warmed by the fire's steady breath. Conversations stayed low and unhurried. As though louder voices might disturb the fragile peace winter had laid across the town. Even laughter softened, becoming something warm rather than bright. As afternoon faded into early dusk, snowflakes thickened, drifting sideways in the dimming light. Windows glowed amber, one by one, until the streets felt lined with gentle stars. Anna pressed her forehead briefly against the cold glass, feeling the warmth behind her and the winter beyond, both existing together without conflict. That night the town rested beneath falling snow, wrapped in quiet and routine, and the children drifted toward sleep with the comforting sense that the world, though cold, was holding them carefully. The cold deepened as the days passed, settling into the bones of the town with a steady, unwavering presence. It was no longer something new to notice, but something to live alongside, like a silent companion that walked beside everyone, matching their pace. The children adjusted without complaint, learning the small rituals that made each day easier. Mornings began with the soft scrape of a match, the brief flare of light, and the slow awakening of the fire. Anna liked this moment best, when the room was still dim and quiet, and the warmth had not yet reached her feet. She would sit on the edge of the bed, wrapped in her shawl, listening to the house breathe, wood settling, embers sighing, wind brushing gently against the walls. At school, ink froze in its wells if left unattended. The teacher moved calmly from desk to desk, reminding the children to keep their hands moving, to warm them by rubbing palms together or tucking fingers into sleeves. Words were written more slowly now, each letter deliberate, as if the cold asked for care in everything. During breaks, the children gathered close, sharing pockets of warmth and quiet conversation. They spoke of small things, dreams, stories, what they had eaten the night before. Their voices were low, but there was comfort in hearing one another, in knowing that no one faced the winter alone. By late afternoon, the sky faded into a soft gray, the sun retreating behind layers of cloud. Shadows lengthened across the snow, blurring edges and smoothing the world into gentle shapes. Anna walked home slowly, her breath rising and falling in pale rhythm, her thoughts drifting as calmly as the clouds above. That evening, as the fire glowed and shadows danced on the walls, the cold remained outside, patient and quiet. Inside, the children felt themselves carried toward rest, cradled by routine, warmth, and the steady passage of another winter day. Winter taught the children to listen, not just to words, but to pauses, to the spaces between sounds where meaning often rested. On some days, the wind moved through the town like a slow breath, stirring loose snow into the air, whispering along corners and rooftops. On other days, there was no wind at all, only a deep, settled quiet that felt almost sacred. Anna learned the different voices of the cold. There was the gentle creak of wood at night as houses adjusted to freezing air, the soft clink of ice forming along water buckets, the distant echo of a door closing somewhere down the street, a sound that seemed to travel farther than it should, carried by stillness. Afternoons were spent indoors more often now. Children sat near windows, mending small tears in mittens, polishing shoes, or simply watching the slow dance of snow beyond the glass. Time stretched in these moments, unhurried and forgiving. No one seemed to mind how slowly it passed. When dusk arrived, it came gently, like a shawl laid over the town. Lamps were lit, their flame steady and calm. Families gathered closer together, sharing meals that warmed the hands as much as the body. Soup steamed quietly, bread cracked softly beneath careful fingers, and conversation flowed in low, comforting tones. Later, as Anna lay in bed, she listened to the wind brush against the roof, not with force, but with patience. The sound lulled her thoughts, smoothing them into something simple and calm. Outside, winter held the town in stillness. Inside, the children rested, learning that even the longest cold could be met with quiet endurance and peace. As winter settled more deeply, days began to feel like quiet repetitions of one another, each one familiar and comforting in its own way. The children learned to recognize time not by clocks, but by light, by how long the pale morning lingered, by how quickly the afternoon faded into gray, by the moment lamps became necessary once again. Anna walked the same paths through town each day, her boots pressing patterns into the snow that never lasted long. Frost clung to bare branches, turning them into delicate white sketches against the sky. She paused often, not because she was tired, but because the stillness invited her to. Even standing quietly felt like part of the day's rhythm. Inside the schoolroom, lessons continued with calm persistence. Pages turned slowly. Chalk tapped softly against the board. When the fire dimmed, someone rose to tend it, the movement gentle and unhurried. No one rushed. There was an understanding now that winter asked for patience, and patience gave something back in return. Evenings were shaped by small comforts, a shared blanket, a cup of warm drink held between both hands, stories spoken in familiar voices, their endings known yet always welcome. The children listened with heavy-lidded attention, feeling the warmth settle into them like a second skin. When night finally came, it arrived without drama. Snow lay still outside, untouched. The sky held its stars quietly, distant and steady. Anna drifted toward sleep, wrapped in layered calm, her thoughts slowing, her breath evening out, knowing that tomorrow would unfold just as gently as today had done. Some mornings the cold felt deeper than before, as if it had settled overnight and decided to stay a little longer. On those days, breath hung in the air even inside the house, and the floorboards felt sharp beneath bare feet. Anna learned to move slowly, wrapping herself in layers before the day fully began, respecting the quiet authority of the season. Outside, the town seemed carved from pale stone and snow. Smoke rose straight from chimneys, thin and steady, disappearing into the low sky. The streets were marked by narrow paths where many feet had passed, each step pressed gently into place, each one a sign of lives continuing calmly forward. The children no longer rushed into play. Instead, they stood together, watching, listening, noticing. A bird perched briefly on a frozen fence. A cart rolled by with slow determination. Somewhere nearby, ice cracked softly, then went still again. These small sounds felt important, as if winter had made space for them to be heard. By afternoon, light filtered weakly through the clouds, casting no shadows, only a soft brightness that smoothed every edge. Anna sat near the window at home, mending a loose seam, her fingers moving in an easy rhythm. She did not hurry. There was comfort in doing something simple, something that would last. As night returned, familiar and early, the fire was lit once more. Warmth gathered slowly, patiently. The cold stayed beyond the walls, quiet and waiting, while inside the children settled into rest, their thoughts growing soft, their bodies heavy with calm. The deepest cold arrived not with wind or storm, but with stillness. One morning the town awoke to a silence so complete it felt as though the world had paused. Snow lay untouched, smooth as cloth, and the air carried no movement at all. Even sound seemed reluctant to travel. Anna stepped outside and felt the cold settle gently on her cheeks. Sharp, yet clean, her breath formed slow clouds that drifted upward and vanished. Each sound she made, the soft press of boots, the faint brush of her coat, felt amplified in the quiet, then quickly swallowed again. The river had slowed beneath its skin of ice. Only in the center did dark water still move, barely visible, patient and steady. The children stood at a careful distance, watching without speaking, sensing the quiet strength beneath the surface. Winter, they understood now, did not stop life. It simply asked it to move more slowly. Inside, homes felt warmer by contrast. Windows were traced with frost, delicate patterns that caught the light. Hands were warmed over cups and bowls, fingers curling gratefully around heat. Conversations drifted easily, punctuated by long pauses that felt comfortable rather than empty. That evening, the town settled into itself once more. Anna's favorite moments were the slow afternoons when the sky stayed pale and time seemed to stretch. She would sit near the hearth, watching flames lean and straighten, listening to the soft murmur of adults speaking nearby. Their voices blended with the crackle of fire, forming a gentle background that made her feel safe without demanding attention. Outside, the town breathed quietly. Snow no longer fell every day, but when it did, it returned with the same calm patience. Flakes drifted down as if guided, landing without urgency. Children no longer rushed to meet them. They simply watched, knowing the snow would stay a while. At school, lessons paused more often. The teacher allowed moments of stillness, gazing out the window, letting thoughts settle. No one objected. In winter, even thinking moved more slowly, and that felt right. When night arrived, as it always did early now, the children drifted toward sleep easily. Their dreams felt unhurried, shaped by dim light, quiet rooms, and the steady presence of cold kept safely at a distance. Winter continued, gentle and persistent, and the children rested within its rhythm. The cold months carried on, steady and unchanging, yet the children sensed subtle shifts as time moved forward. The light, though still pale, lingered just a moment longer in the afternoons. It was barely noticeable. Something felt more than seen, but it offered quiet reassurance. Anna noticed it while walking home one evening. The sky held its color a little longer before fading, the gray softened by a hint of silver. She slowed her steps, savoring the extra light, letting it settle into her thoughts like a gentle promise. Inside the homes, routines remained familiar. Fires were tended, meals were shared, clothing was mended and folded with care. The children participated easily now, their movements confident, shaped by weeks of repetition. Winter no longer felt new, but it still demanded respect. Outside, the snow bore signs of life. Paths worn smooth, edges softened by time, footprints layered over one another, stories overlapping without words. Even the cold seemed less sharp, as if it too had grown accustomed to staying. At night, Anna lay listening to the sound she had come to know well. The wind's faint brush, the quiet settling of the house. These sounds no longer startled her. They guided her gently toward rest, reminding her that winter, like all things, moved forward at its own slow pace. Winter held the town in its calm grip, yet within that stillness, small changes quietly unfolded. The children began to wake before the light, not because they needed to, but because their bodies had learned the rhythm of the season. Mornings felt familiar now. Cold floors, layered clothing, the soft glow of fire returning warmth to the room, one breath at a time. Anna noticed how the cold no longer startled her. She moved through it with ease, knowing where to place her hands, when to pause, when to wait. The air felt sharp against her skin, but it no longer felt unkind. It was simply there, steady and predictable, like the turning of days. At school, windows were often traced with melting lines where frost slowly gave way to warmth inside. Drops slid downward at an unhurried pace, leaving clear paths behind them. The children watched without speaking, content to observe something small and temporary. Afternoons carried a soft hush. Even when voices rose, they did so gently, as if the season itself asked for quiet. The world beyond the walls felt distant and still, while inside time moved with reassuring familiarity. As evening came, Anna felt her thoughts slow naturally. The day had asked little of her, and she gave little in return, only attention, presence, and patience. Wrapped in warmth once more, she drifted toward rest, knowing winter would keep its calm watch through the night. Snow returned one evening in a softer way than before, falling in thin, wandering lines that seemed almost unsure of where to land. It arrived as the town prepared for night, drifting past windows and lanterns, glowing briefly as it passed through light before disappearing into darkness. Anna noticed it while helping close the shutters. She paused, watching flakes gather along the sill, their shapes already blurring as new ones settled beside them. There was no urgency in the snowfall, only a gentle persistence that felt familiar now, like an old friend returning quietly. Inside, the warmth felt deeper, more earned. The fire glowed low and steady, its light reflecting softly on walls and faces. Supper was eaten slowly, hands wrapped around bowls, shoulders relaxed. Conversations drifted in and out, leaving comfortable silences behind. Later, the children gathered near the window once more. Outside, the world softened again, edges fading beneath fresh snow, paths would disappear by morning, ready to be remade. The thought brought no worry, only calm acceptance. As Anna lay down to sleep, snow continued its quiet work beyond the walls. The house felt secure, held together by warmth and routine. Wrapped in blankets, she listened to the faint sound of wind moving snow against the glass, her breathing slowing until thought gently gave way to rest. By now, winter had become the background of everything, a steady presence that no longer demanded attention. The children moved through their days with quiet confidence, their bodies and minds shaped by the season's slow rhythm. Cold hands warmed more quickly. Stillness felt natural. Anna noticed how even her thoughts had learned to slow. She no longer filled every moment with wondering or worry. Instead, she let time pass as it wished, trusting it to carry her gently from morning to night. Outside, the snow lay deeper in places, shallow in others, shaped by wind and footsteps. Icicles formed along eaves, catching the light when the sun appeared briefly, their clear bodies glowing like glass. They did not drip. They simply held their shape, patient and still. At school, the teacher spoke softly, pausing often, as if allowing the quiet to teach its own lessons. The children listened with half-lidded attention, comfortable in the warmth and routine. When the fire crackled, heads lifted briefly, then settled again. Evening arrived without resistance. Lamps were lit, curtains drawn. The town folded inward, conserving warmth and energy. Anna lay beneath her blanket, feeling the steady rise and fall of her breath. Winter holding its place outside while rest gathered slowly within. The nights felt longer now, or perhaps the days had learned how to soften into them more gently. Darkness no longer arrived as an ending, but as a slow settling, like snow easing onto a roof. The children accepted it without question, lighting lamps and candles as naturally as breathing. Anna liked the hour just before sleep, when the house grew quiet, and every sound felt close and familiar. A spoon placed carefully on the table. The soft brush of fabric as someone moved across the room. The fire giving one small sigh as a log shifted and found a steadier place. Outside, the sky held its stars behind thin cloud, hiding them without fully taking them away. The cold air pressed against the walls, steady and calm. It did not try to enter. It simply remained waiting, as it had learned to do. Wrapped in blankets, Anna listened to her own breath. Slower now. Deeper. Thoughts came and went like distant footsteps, never staying long enough to disturb her rest. Winter had taught her this quiet skill, how to let the mind loosen its grip and drift. The night held everything gently in place. Nothing hurried. Nothing asked for more than could be given. And within that stillness, sleep arrived naturally, like warmth spreading slowly through cold hands. Morning came with a faint change in the air, so subtle it could almost be missed. The cold remained, steady and familiar, but there was a softness beneath it now, like a breath taken just a little deeper than before. The children sensed it without naming it, carrying on as they always had, attentive and calm. Anna noticed how the light touched the snow differently. It lingered along the edges of rooftops and fences, catching on ice and turning it briefly golden before fading again. She stood still for a moment, hands tucked into her sleeves, letting that quiet warmth reach her eyes. The town moved gently through its routines. Doors opened and closed with care. Footsteps followed the same paths, smoothing them further. Smoke rose from chimneys in slow, even lines, dissolving into the pale sky. Nothing rushed, Nothing resisted the pace of the day. Inside there was comfort in familiar tasks. Water warmed on the stove, bread was cut and shared, the children helped where they could, their movements practiced and easy. Winter had taught them how to belong to the day without effort. As afternoon drifted toward dusk, Anna felt a deep, untroubled calm settle over her. The cold remained outside, quiet and patient, while inside, warmth and rest gathered once more, ready to carry the day gently to its close. The days began to feel smoother, as though winter had rounded off their sharpest edges. The cold still held firm, but it no longer pressed so closely against the heart of things. Instead, it hovered at a respectful distance, allowing moments of ease to unfold inside homes and minds. Anna spent one afternoon near the window, watching light move slowly across the floor. Dust motes drifted lazily in the warmth rising from the stove, turning and floating as if they had nowhere else to be. She followed them with her eyes, feeling time stretch and soften around her. Outside, the snow showed faint signs of change. Its surface sparkled briefly under the light, then dulled again as clouds returned. The children walked carefully, not because they feared slipping, but because moving slowly had become natural, even comforting. Voices in the town stayed low, not from necessity, but from habit. People spoke as though the quiet deserved respect. Even laughter carried a gentler tone, rising and falling without breaking the calm that winter had laid so carefully over everything. As evening arrived familiar and unhurried, Anna felt her body ease into rest before she even lay down. The day had asked nothing more than presence, and she had given it freely. Wrapped in warmth once more, she let her thoughts drift, carried gently by the steady rhythm of winter's passing. A quiet patience settled over the town, the kind that comes from long familiarity. Winter no longer felt like something to endure, but something to move alongside. The children sensed this shift in small ways, in the ease of tying scarves, in the confidence of stepping onto packed snow, in the calm way adults met each day. Anna walked with her friend along the river path, their breaths rising together in pale clouds. They did not speak much. Words felt unnecessary when the world itself seemed to be speaking in softer tones. The ice along the edges held firm, reflecting the sky in muted shades, while the water beneath continued its slow, unseen journey. Inside the schoolroom, lessons drifted between reading and quiet observation. The teacher paused often, letting silence fill the space between sentences. No one fidgeted. The warmth, the stillness, and the familiar sounds of winter had woven a sense of ease through the room. Later at home, Anna helped fold laundry warmed by the fire. The fabric felt heavy and comforting in her hands, carrying the scent of smoke and soap. Each folded piece felt like a small act of care, simple and grounding. As night approached, the town softened once again into lamplight and shadow. Outside, the cold waited calmly. Inside, the children rested easily, held by routine, warmth, and the gentle understanding that winter, too, had its own quiet kindness. The sky carried a different kind of quiet now, a calm that felt settled rather than heavy. Clouds moved slowly, unhurried, as if they had learned the same patience as the town below. The children noticed how even the air seemed less sharp, still cold, but gentler, like a hand resting rather than pressing. Anna spent a morning helping to fetch water, her steps careful on the packed snow. The bucket felt solid and reassuring in her hands, its weight familiar. Each movement was steady, practiced, requiring no thought. Winter had shaped these small habits, turning them into quiet rituals. Nearby, a dog lay curled beside a doorway, nose tucked beneath its tail, breathing slow and even. The sight made Anna smile softly. Everything seemed to know how to conserve warmth now, how to rest without worry. Inside, the house held its heat well. Sunlight slipped briefly through the window, warming a small square of floor where Anna sat for a while, letting the light touch her hands. She closed her eyes, feeling the warmth fade and return as clouds passed overhead, time marking itself gently. When evening came, it arrived without effort. The fire was tended, supper shared, voices low and familiar. Outside, winter remained calm and watchful. Inside, the children settled once more into rest, their days flowing smoothly toward sleep. A sense of remembering began to settle among the children, though they did not yet have words for it. Winter had lasted long enough to become part of who they were, shaping their days into something steady and reliable. Each morning felt less like a beginning and more like a continuation of a gentle story already in progress. Anna noticed how her steps found their way without thought. The familiar paths through snow, the careful opening of doors, the pause before touching anything cold. All of it happened naturally now. Her body knew what to do, and that knowledge brought a quiet comfort. The town moved together in this shared understanding. People nodded softly as they passed, acknowledging one another without needing conversation. There was warmth in these small exchanges, carried in the eyes rather than the voice. Even silence felt shared. In the afternoon, Anna sat with a book she had read many times before. She turned the pages slowly, not eager to reach the end. Outside, the light shifted almost imperceptibly, and she let it, content to remain where she was, surrounded by warmth and calm. As night returned, the familiar sounds followed, the settling of the house, the faint wind, the low murmur of voices fading into quiet. Wrapped in blankets, Anna felt the day ease away from her, leaving only rest behind, as winter continued its gentle watch. The cold no longer felt endless. It felt complete, as though winter had said everything it needed to say and was now content to remain quietly present. The children sensed this in the way days settled more easily into one another without strain or impatience. Anna woke to a morning that felt almost familiar enough to be remembered in advance. The air was still cold, but the room held its warmth longer, its warmth. She lingered beneath her blanket for a moment, listening to the slow sounds of the house waking, soft footsteps, the low murmur of voices, the first careful movement of the fire. Outside, the snow carried a faint sheen where the light touched it, no longer sharp, but gentle. The town moved at the same calm pace it always had, yet there was an ease in every step, as if everyone had learned exactly how much effort the day required, and no more. At school, the children worked quietly, pausing often to rest their hands or simply look out the window. No one hurried them. Time felt generous, allowing space for thought, for stillness, for breath. As evening approached, Anna felt a familiar heaviness in her limbs, not from exhaustion, but from contentment. The day had been enough. Wrapped in warmth once more, she let the quiet settle over her, winter holding its place outside as rest gathered gently within. A soft rhythm carried the town forward now, like a song played so quietly it blended into the background of everything. Winter remained, steady and composed, but it no longer asked to be noticed. It simply existed, allowing life to continue at its own careful pace. Anna spent part of the day near the doorway where warmth and cold met gently. She liked that place best, the way the air changed, the way the light shifted across the threshold. She watched her breath appear and fade, each one slow and unhurried, matching the calm around her. Outside, a thin layer of snow had hardened just enough to hold shape. Footsteps left shallow marks that lingered a little longer than before. The children walked thoughtfully, feeling the ground respond beneath them, learning again how the world answered quiet movement. Inside, the house held a familiar hush. A pot simmered softly. Fabric brushed against skin. Someone hummed without realizing it, the sound low and soothing, blending into the warmth of the room. Nothing demanded attention. Everything simply was. As night arrived, the town settled with ease. Lamps glowed, curtains closed. Anna laid down, feeling gently carried by the day, her thoughts slowing, her body heavy with calm. Winter rested beyond the walls, unchanged and patient, while sleep gathered softly around her. A faint shift moved through the mornings now, subtle as the turning of a page. The cold still held the air, but it felt less tight, less insistent. Anna noticed it when she opened the door and paused, sensing a softness beneath the familiar chill, as though winter had relaxed its grip without fully letting go. The town greeted the day in its usual quiet way. Snow along the edges of the street showed signs of settling, its surface smoothed by time and passing feet. Roof lines glistened briefly when light touched them, then returned to pale stillness. Everything looked the same, yet felt slightly lighter, as if carrying itself with less effort. At school, the room warmed more quickly than before. Coats were loosened, scarves set aside sooner. The children sat with relaxed shoulders, listening, writing, pausing. When the teacher stopped speaking, the silence felt comfortable, not heavy, an open space rather than an empty one. In the afternoon, Anna walked slowly, noticing small sounds returning. A distant cart wheel creaked. Somewhere water moved beneath ice with a soft, patient murmur. These sounds did not break the quiet. They rested within it, gentle reminders that life continued its steady flow. That evening, as the fire settled into a calm glow, Anna felt a deep ease spread through her. The day had unfolded without asking for attention, and she welcomed sleep the same way, without effort, without hurry, letting winter's calm carry her softly into rest. The children began to notice the way air moved again, not strongly, not with any urgency, but gently, like a slow breath passing through the town. It carried faint sounds farther than before, the distant knock of wood, the quiet call of someone across the street. Winter was still present, but it had grown thoughtful, less silent. Anna stood near the window one morning, watching a thin ribbon of smoke drift sideways instead of straight up. The movement held her attention longer than she expected. It felt like a small message, not meant to be understood, only noticed. She rested her hands on the sill, feeling the cool wood beneath her fingers, grounded and calm. Outside, snow softened along its edges. Where it met stone, tiny drops formed and vanished again, never enough to change anything, only enough to be seen. The children stepped carefully, sensing that the ground, too, was beginning to shift in its own slow way. Indoors, the warmth lingered longer after the fire was tended. People sat more easily, stretching their legs, leaning back in their chairs. Conversations drifted in gentle arcs, rising and falling without effort, leaving behind a sense of shared ease. As night approached, Anna felt the familiar quiet settle once more. She lay down with a steady breath, listening to the softened sounds of the town. Winter remained close, calm and watchful. while sleep came easily, like a memory returning without being called. Morning light returned with a slightly warmer tone, though the cold still held its place. It was not a warmth that melted snow or hurried the day forward, but one that softened edges, making everything feel kinder. Anna noticed it as she sat quietly, watching the pale glow move across the wall, inch by inch, unbothered by time. Outside, the town carried on in its familiar rhythm. Snowbanks leaned gently against fences, their shapes rounded now, no longer sharp. Footsteps made a different sound, less brittle, more muted, as if the ground itself had begun to rest more deeply. At school, windows were opened for just a moment, letting in a breath of fresh air before being closed again. The chill slipped inside briefly, then faded, leaving behind a sense of clarity. The children sat a little straighter, their movements still slow, but lighter somehow. In the afternoon, Anna walked past the river and paused as she always did. The ice remained firm and quiet, but the water beneath sounded clearer now, its steady motion easier to hear. She listened without thinking, letting the sound move through her like a calm thought that required no answer. As evening settled in, the town returned once more to lamplight and warmth. Anna lay beneath her blanket, feeling the day release her gently. Winter stayed close, no longer demanding attention, while rest arrived softly, steady, and sure. The days carried a quiet familiarity now, like a path worn smooth by many careful steps. Anna moved through them with ease, guided by habits that felt almost invisible. She no longer counted how many mornings had passed since the first snow. Time had softened into something broader, something she could simply live inside. Early light slipped through the curtains, pale and calm. It touched the room without waking it fully, as if asking permission first. Anna lay still for a moment, listening to the house breathe, the gentle creak of wood, the distant clink of something set down in the kitchen. These sounds felt like a promise that the day would unfold gently. Outside, the town seemed to stretch and settle. Snow along the roads had been pressed flat and smooth, reflecting light softly. A few birds moved carefully along the edges of roofs, their movements unhurried, as though they too had learned winter's patient rhythm. During the afternoon, warmth gathered slowly near the fire. Anna sat close enough to feel it, far enough to remain comfortable. She watched the flames lean and straighten, the way they always did, and felt her thoughts grow simple and light. There was nothing she needed to remember, nothing she needed to plan. When night came, it did so quietly, as it had learned to. Lamps glowed, shadows deepened, and the town drew inward once again. Anna rested easily, her breathing slow and even. Winter's calm stillness holding everything gently in place. A gentle sameness settled over the days, not dull or heavy, but reassuring, like a familiar melody repeated softly. Anna found comfort in knowing what each day would bring: the cool touch of the floor in the morning, the gradual return of warmth, the quiet tasks that filled the hours without demanding much in return. She spent one afternoon near the doorway again, watching light change as clouds passed slowly overhead. The air felt different now, still cold, yet less sharp. When she stepped outside briefly, the chill greeted her like an old acquaintance rather than a challenge. She breathed in, then out, feeling steady and calm. The town responded in small ways. Doors stayed open a moment longer before closing. People lingered slightly in conversation, as if time had stretched to make room for them. Snow no longer sparkled as sharply. It rested, matte and smooth, content to remain where it was. Inside, the fire's warmth seemed to reach farther into the room. Anna sat with her back against the wall, feeling heat through her clothing, letting her thoughts drift without direction. The quiet felt complete, holding nothing extra, asking nothing more. As evening arrived, the familiar rhythm guided her toward rest once again. The day folded itself away gently, leaving only warmth, stillness, and the slow, comforting pull of sleep waiting just ahead. The town seemed to exhale together, a long, shared breath that carried through streets and rooms alike. Winter was still present, steady and cool, but it no longer felt like a weight. It felt like a quiet companion walking just beside everyone, matching their slower steps. Anna noticed how her mornings unfolded with ease. She rose without resistance, wrapped herself in familiar layers, and moved through the house while it was still dim and peaceful. The light arrived gradually now, not sudden, not bright, just enough to soften the shadows and guide the day forward. Outside, the snow held its shape but no longer felt fragile. It absorbed sound gently, allowing the town to move without echo or hurry. A distant voice, a cart rolling slowly, the faint tap of footsteps, all of it blended into a calm, steady hum that never broke the quiet. In the afternoon, Anna sat with her hands folded in her lap, doing nothing at all. The fire warmed the room evenly, and she let herself simply exist within that warmth. Thoughts came and went without catching. Time felt wide and forgiving. As night approached, the familiar stillness returned, welcoming and kind. Anna lay down, her body already relaxed, her breathing deep and slow. Winter remained outside, calm and patient, while inside, rest settled gently over her like a well-known blanket. A quiet awareness spread among the children, as if they were beginning to notice not just the days themselves, but how those days felt inside their bodies. Movements came more slowly, not from cold alone, but from a gentle listening that winter had taught them. They paused more often, resting within moments instead of moving through them. Anna felt this most clearly in the afternoons, when the light lingered softly and the house seemed to hum with warmth. She sat near the window, not watching anything in particular, just sensing the balance between inside and out. The glass felt cool beneath her fingertips, steady and unmoving, while the air behind her stayed warm and still. Outside, the snow held its quiet shape. Nothing demanded change. Even the sky seemed content to remain pale and calm, drifting nowhere in a hurry. The town existed within this slow breath, each home a small pocket of warmth held gently in place. As evening arrived, the familiar patterns unfolded without effort. Lamps were lit, voices lowered. The fire settled into a steady glow. Anna felt the day release her softly, as though it understood exactly how much she could carry. Wrapped in blankets, she let her eyes close easily. Winter remained close, no longer something to notice, only something that held the world in a calm, unbroken stillness as sleep came quietly, one breath at a time. The mornings began to feel spacious, as though the night had loosened its hold just a little before letting go. Anna woke to a dim, patient light, the kind that did not ask her to rise quickly. She lay still, listening to the soft certainty of the house, the low crackle of embers, the distant movement of someone beginning the day. Outside, the town rested in a calm balance. Snow remained along the streets and roofs, but its surface looked smoother now, softened by time and quiet footsteps. The cold air felt steady rather than sharp, carrying with it a sense of calm that settled easily in the chest. At school, the children moved with unspoken understanding. Pages turned slowly. Pencils paused often. No one rushed to finish. The room felt held by warmth and routine, a place where time was allowed to pass gently without being measured. In the afternoon, Anna walked home beneath a pale sky that seemed to hover rather than stretch. She noticed how her breath matched her steps, slow in, slow out, each one grounding her more deeply in the moment. Nothing pulled her forward, nothing lingered behind. That night, as lamps glowed and shadows gathered softly, Anna felt the day come to rest within her. The quiet felt complete, and she welcomed sleep without effort, winter's calm stillness cradling everything gently into the night. A gentle sense of continuity settled into the town, as if winter had woven all the days together into one long, calm moment. Anna no longer thought of the season as something that would end or change. It simply was, steady, familiar, and quietly reassuring. She noticed how sounds had returned in small, careful ways. A spoon tapping softly against a bowl, the low murmur of voices drifting through a doorway, the faint scrape of wood being moved closer to the fire. None of these sounds felt loud. They rested inside the quiet rather than interrupting it. Outside, the snow reflected the sky in muted tones, pale and even. Where footsteps passed, they left gentle impressions that stayed for a while before smoothing away. Anna liked knowing that the world could hold a mark briefly, then let it fade without effort. In the afternoon, she sat near the warmth again, her back supported, her hands relaxed in her lap. She watched nothing in particular, allowing her thoughts to slow until they felt almost transparent. Time passed without needing to be counted. As night came, the town folded inward once more, familiar and safe. Anna lay down, feeling the calm of the day settle through her body. Winter stayed close and quiet, and sleep arrived naturally, like a breath released at the end of a long, peaceful pause. A soft anticipation hovered in the air, barely noticeable, like the pause between breaths. The cold still shaped the days, but it felt less absolute now, as if winter itself had settled into a listening posture. Anna sensed it when she stepped outside and felt the air touch her face, cool, steady, and quietly aware. The town moved with the same gentle certainty as always. Paths remained clear where many feet had passed, their edges rounded and familiar. Snow rested where it was, no longer demanding attention. Even the sky seemed to linger, pale and open, allowing the day to unfold without pressure. At home, the fire warmed the room more evenly. Anna sat nearby, the heat reaching her slowly, comfortably. She closed her eyes for a moment, noticing the way warmth spread, the way her shoulders softened without being told to relax. This was a kind of learning, too, how to let go without effort. Later she helped with small tasks, each one simple and grounding, folding, carrying, setting things gently into place. Nothing felt urgent. Each movement fit neatly into the day, like a note returning to a familiar melody. As evening arrived, the calm deepened. Lamps glowed softly, shadows gathered without haste, and the town settled once more into its quiet rhythm. Anna lay down feeling held by the day's ease, winter's presence steady and kind, and sleep waited patiently just beyond her next breath. The mornings carried a gentler hush now, as if night released the town with a careful hand. Anna woke to a light that seemed to breathe, brightening, then pausing, before settling into the room. She stayed still for a moment, feeling the quiet wrap around her like a familiar coat, warm where it mattered most. Outside, the air held a calm clarity. Snow no longer glittered sharply. It rested, smooth and pale, reflecting the sky's soft patience. The sound of a door opening traveled a little farther than before, not because it was loud, but because the world listened kindly to small things again. Anna moved through the house with easy steps. The floor felt cool, but not biting. The fire answered with a steady warmth, its glow reaching across the room without effort. She warmed her hands and watched the light gather on the wall, noticing how shadows softened at their edges. The town unfolded in quiet pieces. A cart passed slowly. A voice called once, then fell away. Somewhere water shifted beneath ice, its steady motion a reminder that time continued even when it felt almost still. As evening returned, it did so gently, like a curtain drawn partway closed. Lamps lit the corners of rooms. Breath slowed. Anna lay down feeling unhurried and safe, her thoughts loosening their hold as winter's calm carried her toward rest. The day unfolded as though it had learned the shape of itself. Nothing surprised it, and it surprised no one in return. Anna sensed this calm certainty while standing at the window, watching the pale light rest on the snow without trying to change it. The world seemed content to remain exactly as it was for a while longer. Outside, the town moved gently, almost thoughtfully. Footsteps followed familiar paths, doors closed with care. Even the cold felt different now, present, yes, but quieter, less insistent. It rested in the air like a held note, steady and unobtrusive. Indoors, warmth gathered easily. The fire no longer needed constant tending, and its glow reached farther into the room. Anna sat nearby, her back supported, her hands relaxed. She noticed how her breathing matched the slow rhythm around her, each breath unhurried, each pause comfortable. In the afternoon, the light shifted subtly, not brighter, just clearer. Shadows softened and rearranged themselves without drama. Anna watched this slow movement until it felt like the day itself was breathing alongside her. When evening came, it arrived with a familiar quiet. Lamps were lit, voices lowered, and the town folded inward once again. Anna lay down, feeling the steady calm settle through her body, winter holding everything gently in place as sleep drew near. A soft clarity settled into the hours, as if winter had polished the edges of the day. Anna noticed it in the way her thoughts felt lighter, less crowded. She could sit quietly without feeling the need to fill the space, letting moments pass like slow clouds moving across a pale sky. Outside, the town held steady. Snow rested where it had been for days, its surface gently rounded, no longer sharp or new. The air felt calm against the skin, cool but no longer demanding attention. Even the cold seemed to have learned how to be gentle. Anna walked a familiar path, her steps measured and easy. Each footfall pressed softly into the snow, leaving a mark that would remain for a while, then slowly fade. She liked that, how the world remembered briefly, then let go without regret. Inside, the house felt settled and warm. Light from the fire moved slowly across the walls, stretching and shrinking as the flames shifted. Anna watched without thinking, her mind drifting into a quiet place where nothing needed to be solved or understood. As night returned, it did so like a calm companion. The day released its hold gently, and Anna lay down feeling unburdened, her breath slow and even. Winter stayed close, quiet and steady, while sleep arrived without effort, one peaceful moment at a time. The cold remained, but it felt settled now, as if it had found its place and no longer needed to shift or press. Anna noticed how easily she moved through the day, her body remembering what to do without thought. Each action felt measured, balanced, and calm. Morning light filtered through the room in a pale wash, touching familiar shapes and leaving them unchanged. Anna sat quietly, hands wrapped around warmth, listening to the soft sounds of the house. There was comfort in knowing what each sound meant, where it came from, and how long it would last. Outside, the town breathed slowly. Snow rested along walls and roads, smooth and patient. A few icicles caught the light briefly, then returned to stillness. Nothing hurried them, nothing asked them to change. In the afternoon, Anna found herself resting more often, not from tiredness, but from contentment. She leaned back, letting the warmth of the room support her, letting time move around her instead of through her. As evening came, the familiar quiet returned, deeper now, richer. Lamps glowed softly, shadows lengthened, and the town folded inward once more. Anna lay down with ease, her thoughts already slowing, winter's calm presence guiding her gently towards sleep. A quiet steadiness carried the day forward, as if the world had found a pace that felt exactly right. Anna woke without hurry, the dim light already waiting for her, patient and kind. She lay still for a moment, listening to the faint sounds beyond the walls, each one familiar enough to feel reassuring. Outside, the air held its calm. Snow remained along the streets, its surface gently pressed and smooth, reflecting the pale sky without shine or shadow. The cold no longer felt like something to meet or resist. It simply existed, sharing space with warmth in an easy balance. Inside the house, small movements unfolded softly. A cup set down, fabric folded, a door eased closed rather than shut. Anna moved through these moments without thinking, her body relaxed, her mind quiet. There was comfort in knowing that nothing unexpected waited in the day. In the afternoon, she sat near the fire again, watching the glow settle into the room. The warmth reached her slowly, evenly, and she let her shoulders drop as if they had been waiting for permission. Thoughts drifted through and away, leaving behind a gentle stillness. As evening arrived, the town settled once more into lamplight and shadow. Anna lay down feeling the day complete, not because it had ended, but because it had given exactly what it needed to. Winter remained close and calm, and sleep followed naturally, soft and untroubled. The town seemed to move within a shared, quiet understanding now, as though everyone had learned the same gentle lesson at the same time. Nothing needed to be hurried, nothing needed to be held too tightly. Winter remained steady and familiar, but it no longer shaped the days alone. The people had learned how to shape themselves within it. Anna noticed this most clearly in the way mornings felt complete even before they fully began. The light arrived softly, spreading across the room without demanding attention. She dressed slowly, each movement unforced, the warmth of the house meeting her halfway. Outside, the snow had settled into a calm permanence. It no longer shifted or sparkled. It simply rested, holding the quiet in place. Footsteps passed without echo, absorbed gently, leaving the world smooth and still behind them. During the afternoon, Anna found herself resting again, not from fatigue, but from a deep sense of enough. The fire breathed steadily, the air felt balanced, neither too cold nor too warm. She sat with her hands folded, letting time pass without marking it. When night returned, It arrived like a familiar thought, expected, welcome, and calm. Lamps glowed softly across the town, and Anna lay down feeling held by the steady rhythm of winter, her breathing slow, her thoughts drifting easily toward rest. A sense of memory began to weave itself quietly through the days, as if winter were leaving gentle fingerprints behind. Not memories of single moments, but of a feeling of how the world had learned to move more slowly, more kindly. Anna carried this feeling with her without realizing it, like warmth held deep beneath layers. She noticed it while standing at the window, watching the pale sky rest above the town. The light felt familiar now, no longer something to observe closely, but something to trust. It would come, it would fade, and it would return again, all in its own time. Outside, the air held a soft stillness. Snow no longer shifted beneath her feet, only yielding slightly, as if acknowledging her presence, and then settling again. The cold remained calm and even, no longer sharp at the edges. Inside, the house seemed to know when to be quiet. Sounds appeared only when needed, then slipped away again. The fire glowed low and steady, offering warmth without demand. Anna sat nearby, her breathing slow, her thoughts unformed and light. As evening gathered, it did not arrive all at once. It drifted in gently, dimming corners, softening outlines. Anna lay down, feeling wrapped in a familiar calm, winter's presence steady and reassuring, and sleep approached without effort, like a well-known path leading softly into rest. The day felt as though it had learned how to rest inside itself. Anna sensed this in the way time seemed to open rather than pass, offering space instead of movement. She woke slowly, not pulled from sleep, but released from it, the warmth of the blankets lingering as the room waited patiently around her. Outside, the town held its calm shape. Snow lay where it had for days, untroubled, its surface smooth and pale. The air felt steady and clear, cool without edge, like water that no longer surprised the skin. A distant sound, a door, a step, floated briefly, then settled back into silence. Inside, light gathered softly near the windows. It did not brighten quickly, it simply appeared, as if it had always been there and was now choosing to be noticed. Anna sat quietly, hands resting in her lap, feeling the gentle balance between warmth and cool, between stillness and breath. The afternoon moved with the same ease. Nothing called for attention. Tasks completed themselves without effort. The fire offered warmth evenly, and Anna allowed herself to do nothing at all, letting the quiet carry her without direction. As evening arrived, it did so with a deep familiarity. Lamps glowed, shadows settled, and the town folded inward once more. Anna lay down feeling calm and complete, her breath slow and steady, winter's quiet presence holding everything gently as sleep drew near. The quiet felt fuller now, as if it had gathered all the days together and held them in a single gentle pause. Anna sensed this fullness when she stepped outside briefly and stood still, letting the air settle around her. The cold touched her face without surprise, calm and even, like a familiar hand resting there. The town seemed to listen to itself. Snow lay unchanged, its surface smoothed by time and care. Roofs, fences, and paths held their shapes without effort. Even the sky appeared content to remain pale and steady, offering light without insistence. Inside, warmth moved slowly through the rooms, reaching corners it once could not. Anna noticed how easily she sat, how naturally her shoulders relaxed. She did not think about the season anymore. It had become part of her, something carried quietly rather than observed. Afternoon slipped toward evening without a clear edge. Light dimmed gently, shadows growing softer rather than darker. Voices lowered on their own. The fire settled into a low, steady glow, offering comfort without drawing attention. When Anna lay down that night, she felt a deep sense of peace settle through her body. The day released her gently as if it knew she was ready to rest. Winter remained close and calm, holding the town in stillness as sleep arrived, slow and sure. The final days of that long winter did not announce themselves. They arrived the same way everything else had, quietly, without urgency, wrapped in familiarity. Anna woke to a morning that felt complete, as though the season had gently folded itself around her and settled. Light entered the room with calm confidence, no longer hesitant, no longer sharp. It rested on the walls, the floor, the edges of familiar objects, touching them without asking them to change. The cold remained, but it felt balanced now, steady and respectful, sharing space easily with warmth. Outside, the town stood in peaceful stillness. Snow rested where it had learned to rest. Paths remained smooth and known. The air felt clear and calm, carrying no tension, only quiet presence. Life moved slowly, not because it had to, but because it had learned that slowness was enough. Inside, Anna sat quietly, feeling how deeply the season had shaped her. Patience lived easily in her now. Silence felt safe. Waiting no longer felt empty. Winter had taught her these things without words, through repetition, through calm, through time. As evening came one last time in this long remembering, it arrived gently, like a closing hand. Lamps glowed softly. Shadows settled. Anna lay down, her breathing slow and even, feeling held by warmth, by memory, by quiet understanding. The winter remained around the town, calm and kind, as she drifted fully into rest. Thank you for spending this quiet time together, resting within these memories of winter, patience, and gentle endurance. If your eyes have grown heavy, allow them to close fully now. Let your breathing slow. Let your body sink into rest, knowing you are safe and unhurried. If this story brought you comfort, you can softly show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It helps these quiet moments reach others who need them. And if you wish, you may leave a comment sharing where you are listening from and what time it is for you now. For now, there is nothing else to do. Let the night carry you. Sleep deeply. Rest well.